Hi, I'm Cathy Madeo with Honor Yoga, here to teach you how to do Ekapada Kundanyasana 2, also known as flying splits. If you're at home and you have a couple blocks and a blanket, go ahead and grab those. And if you don't, no worries. Grab something just to prop yourself up enough to rest your shoulder when your arm is in a 90-degree angle, so you can get creative around the house. Let's get started. We'll start by stretching the right leg in a lizard position or pose. Walk the right foot out to the right edge of the mat and walk the back leg far behind you, so you can really start to stretch the front of the left hip flexors as well as the right hip. And make your way down into your forearms. So this is a great stretch to prepare yourself for this pose. And it also kind of gets you into the general shape of the pose with the legs. So this is generally where the legs are going to be in this pose. Take a few long breaths here, lengthening through the spine. Your gaze is forward, trying to get a nice long spine here. So the shoulder blades come towards the spine. Hug your inner right thigh in. And lift the back leg, or back knee rather, off the mat. So squeeze those left quads to engage all the muscles of the legs. Good. From here, walk those hands up, and we'll just simply switch sides. So you can move from down dog, step the left foot forward, drop the back knee, and move the hands down. Good. So stretching out in that lizard pose. Really lengthening the hip flexors, opening the left hip. Curl the back toes under, squeeze the right quad muscles to lift the back knee. And again, make sure you're lengthening through the spine. Take 2 more breaths here. Keep pulling the belly in towards the spine, hugging the inner thigh muscles in towards the side body. Good, and release down. We're going to come back to the lizard shape with the right leg forward and have whatever concoction you've come up with on the left corner of the mat. Place your left fingertips right behind the blocks or whatever you have and step the right foot to the front of the mat. Drop the back knee down. So the first thing we have to do is thread this arm underneath. A couple of things that happen, or things that kind of trip people up in this pose, is they think that they have to do a full split to be able to do this pose, but you don't. The front leg's actually going to go more out to the side. So you have some freedom if the hips are tight or the hamstrings are tight to actually move the leg more out to the side. I like to dig my shoulder deep underneath the right leg to really get set up for this pose. So I actually come out of my lizard pose to do that. So I curl my back toes under, ground the back heel down. I move my seat way out so I can really dig the shoulder as far under as it will go. Then I return back to the lizard pose in the legs. Now hands have to be placed shoulders distance apart, as though you were going to be in chaturanga. So this is where people get stuck. I see 2 things happen. The left arm locks out, meaning it doesn't bend, and it has to bend because it's chaturanga arms. And the right leg thinks it has to go straight instead of out to the side, which we've already discussed. So go ahead and just move that right leg all the way out to the right. You'll roll to the inner thigh and rest the inside of the leg on the back of the right arm. Pin the elbows in so that they're pointing towards the back of the mat, and shift the weight forward so that the elbows stack over the wrists. From here, I want to allow you to just rest that left shoulder down so you can just fully rest. And keep those back toes curled under, get the back knee off the mat, and play with straightening the front leg. So here we have the general shape of our flying splits. So I'm really reaching out through the backs of the legs. My left shoulder is resting down just so I can feel what this pose will feel like in my body once I take flight. And from here, start to refine those arms. So remember, arms at a 90-degree angle, shoulders line up with elbows, elbows stack over wrists. So hold this for 2 more breaths. Good. Drop the back knee and make your way out of the pose. Good. So you can try that on the second side with the same thing. You just simply move the blocks over. We're going to do it again on the second side without the blocks or props. So step the left foot forward. We'll do the same thing that we just did. So we're not fully coming into the pose yet. Take your left hand to the back of the left calf. Back knee lifts. back heel drops so that you can really scoop that left shoulder under. And you're making a bit of a bind here. You're wrapping the left leg high around the left shoulder. From here, set up the hands. Hands are in the same line and wrist crease parallel to the front of the mat. Scoop that heel back off the mat. And remember, this right arm has to bend, so don't lock it out. Look at your own right arm, make sure it's not straight. Start to bend it. Left leg goes not forward, but all the way out to the left. So just start to move it all the way out to the left. And this is where you have to bend the arms. Let that elbow graze the side body. You can even create a little bit of a shelf resting your rib cage on the back of the right arm. From here, start to work the legs straight. So squeeze the quads, press out through the mounds of the toes, and hold here for a couple breaths. Really keeping every part of your body engaged. And release the back knee. Come on out of the pose. Good. Take a quick child's pose. Okay, so hopefully you felt the general kind of shape of that pose. We'll try to work into it a little bit more smoothly. So step the right foot forward as though you were preparing for lizard pose. And same thing, we're going to dig that right shoulder way under. Now, arm balances are all about shifting the weight of your pelvis, which for most of us is the kind of biggest center point in our body. And we have to shift it forward in order to lift the feet up and balance on our hands. The other thing about arm balance is, for many of these, especially this one, you're lower on the ground than you think. So if you're worried that you're about to fall on your face, it indeed feels like you're going to fall on your face. You're that low. Good. So the more I shift the weight forward, my hips lift up, and that's what sends the back leg up. From here, I'm refining the pose by making sure my shoulders aren't dipping too far down. The arms are at a 90-degree angle. And release it back. We'll try that on the second side. Left foot forward. Dig the left arm, the hand underneath the calf. Shoulder way underneath. Hands plant. Unspin that back heel. I'm moving that left leg out of the way, all the way to the left. And at the same time, pin the elbows in and back. Shift the weight forward. Once those elbows stack over the wrists, you'll take flight. Really work those legs. And release down. Step it back, downward facing dog. Just stretch it out. And feel free to take a child's pose. So next we're going to take it from downward facing dog. And for many people, once they understand the shape of this pose, coming from downward facing dog is a little bit more accessible. So that's where we're going to go. So from downward facing dog, we're actually going to do a bit of a drill. And this would be your prep if you wanted to start working this arm balance from down dog. So take three-legged down dog, right leg lifts up. Exhale, come forward to plank, and then chaturanga the arms. And reach it back, three-legged down dog. Exhale, chaturanga those arms. And inhale it up and back. Good, we'll switch sides. So I acknowledge that that is very hard. It's definitely hard for me. And initially you might just start here in plank. But eventually you want to start working those arms bent in a 90-degree angle, like this. And lift it up and back. So our flying split is really taking that movement and just continuing on with the leg. So we're going to lift the leg up in our three-legged down dog, work that chaturanga, and just keep going with the leg. And using that momentum, oftentimes we'll lift the back leg up. So here we go. From down dog, right leg lifts up, and just keep going with that same movement. Chaturanga the arms, straighten out that front leg, back leg lifts up. And step it back, downward facing dog. We'll try that on the second side. Left leg lifts up, exhale, chaturanga, and fly. Back leg lifts up, keep those shoulders lifting up. And step it back. Woo, downward facing dog. So I hope you got some pointers with this pose and maybe a different way to get into this pose, or at least just start working on the general shape of the pose. Just a friendly reminder, I've never gotten into a single arm balance the first try. It definitely has taken me lots of attempts, and all of those attempts is what makes me stronger along the way. Namaste.